Hi, everyone. Hello? How's everyone? I really wanted to reduce the distance between us because these chairs are so high and I cannot see many of your faces, but we're at the end of the day. I wanted to make sure that we have a fun time together. I'm not wasting anybody's time. Actually, this was supposed to be a fire chat session of Pearly Chen with herself, and I thought, why not invite my great friend Alvin to join me on stage, and we can have a nice fireside conversation while meeting and engaging with the audience. So we didn't want a monologue of two. We are very close friends. We talk all the time. We don't need to be talking here necessarily. We're going to take this stage and make sure that we share some of our perspectives, not necessarily officially representing HTC, their personal views of where the industry is going, what we've been announcing this week at CES, and more. But most importantly, we want to engage. I can't see very much as the light is so bright, but I hope that this distance between us is not as large as the physical distance. So please shout out anytime, engage with us, interrupt us, shoot out your comments, shoot out questions. We love that, okay? Are we in? All right? Great.
And don't quote us in any articles,
No,
please.
no, absolutely. Okay, fantastic. So where do we start? So obviously, in the past few years, it's been a very exciting journey since we started this journey called Vive, with the purpose of combining the best of humanity with the cutting-edge technology to unleash human imagination. I was talking briefly about women leadership, how shares influence on how this technology is developing is very, very important. I think unique, and I've been privileged to have that front row seat and in seeing how that unfolds. So in speaking to that bigger purpose, I really want to touch upon that. It's not corporate, politically correct statement. It's something that we deeply care about. And so that really defines everything we do. And but in this journey, it is a long journey as HTC pioneers smartphone onto the next computing platform. These kind of journey is like a marathon, and oftentimes we hear a lot of skeptics, right? Every 2 weeks or so, you see another article quoting VR is dead, right? We just read another one yesterday, quoting how miserable it is, how disappointing. We always hear these voices, but also the biggest investor in Silicon Valley, Mark Andreessen, came out to say he thought VR is going to be 1,000 times bigger than AR. Right, what a contrarian view, which I actually find some merit in this sort of sentiment. So I wanted to open the can of worms for us to have a conversation about that. What are your thoughts, Elvin, regarding VR, AR, MR? How are we confusing a market? Where's this all going? And I have a view on that too, but let's hear from you and hopefully from some of the audience as well.
And I actually do have also personal passion for this because this is something I had started 27 years ago. I started getting into VR. I was one of the students with Tom Furness in the HIT lab, one of the first research labs for VR in the world. And at that point, I remember I wrote my paper saying the next 10 years, VR is going to disrupt education. It's going to be the best thing out there. It's going to democratize high quality education. 27 years later, it's starting to happen. So. And in between that period, we've had a few ups and downs as well. So there was many articles in the 90s that said VR is dead and it's never coming back. And now it's coming back. And with every technology cycle, we know it goes through these hype cycles, and then you have this disillusion cycles, and then you get into a more normal growth cycle. I think where we are right now is that we are in if you listen to Gardner, they have this that curve, and we are in the slope of enlightenment. So we are in a place where it's going to gradually grow, and it's going to grow into a steady, sustained penetration into various parts of the market. And I think that's something that I'm actually very confident about, right? Because being in the industry as deep as we are, we get to see not only the things that we are doing, but all the things that our invested companies are doing, as well as all the things that the partners are doing and our competitors are doing. So. I can be very confident that the products are going to get much better and much lighter and much cheaper and much higher fidelity and so forth. So it will be able to meet the needs of what people, the average person is going to look for. So I don't think VR is dead. I don't think VR is going to be 1,000 times better than AR. I actually think that VR and AR are going to become one thing, and it's going to become one device that's on our head, and it's going to give you both functions, and we don't really need to have this debate about which is better, VR, AR, because they're all part of the same, the same spectrum. So that's kind of my general view.
Totally agree. VR and AR is a virtuality continuum is one of our favorite sort of view in describing that. There's completely real reality. There's completely virtual reality. But there can be different compositions of AR and VR where the real augments the virtual, where the virtual augments the real. And we've been seeing developers making great use of our front-facing cameras to bring some of those concepts to life. And sure, Generation 0 hardware could feel sort of bulky and not quite there, but soon enough with new network like 5G and more, which we'll touch upon later, the form factor could change. And it could be just one device. Then I think it's not a matter of whether it will happen. Definitely, it is a form factor that would naturally evolve from our handset to our head-worn device, where you access all of your information, all of your entertainment and experiences. It will happen. So I also agree we don't need to debate because there is no need to delineate between VR and AR. It would just be one immersive computing platform where human interacts with computer, or better, where society interacts with technology. That's a better way I like to frame it.
So why don't we talk about something that's a little bit more practical and to date, because as you guys know, we just launched a few products recently, and there are some confusion out there because I see a lot of feedback on the various social boards of like, what is this new thing and why does it matter? So I figure I'll spend a minute just explaining each one and why it matters, right? Because I think we've announced some things that actually will have long-term impact. First, we did announce the Viveport Vive Pro Eye, which is the world's first commercial integrated eye tracking and embedded VR headset. And that's something that's more targeted towards the enterprise, but it's something that has been asked for by a lot of our business customers, both in terms of providing higher quality of rendering as well as interaction models that wasn't possible before. If you were to go and buy the customized SMI embedded eye tracking systems, it was something like $12,000 per headset. Now you can get it for significantly less, and we can't talk about price yet, but it's significantly less than those kind of prices. And for users or for customers that need that, it is something that they're going to really love. Not only from the price perspective, but from a developer, knowing that there's going to be standard capability to embed eye tracking, it means that they can put that as part of their normal app. I think that's going to change the way people develop and add functionality. The second thing that a lot of people have questions on, and probably the most questions on, is on our new Vive Cosmos product. And just to confirm, it is not a standalone product. It is a hybrid product that allows you to connect both to a PC or to a mobile device, a high-end mobile device, and give you high-quality VR experience. And it is an inside-out tracking system, so it can be used at home or on the go. Right? That's the general idea. I can't give you too many details or specs or pricing, but I think that at least helps to understand kind of what it is. Now, why are we doing it? And the reason we're doing it is because we've done a lot of studies out there about what users want, and the people who have bought VR already, they were actually happy, and they want the sub-millimeter accuracy of a lighthouse base station tracking system. But for a lot of people who haven't bought, their big complaint is, these things are complicated, so many wires, it's hard to set up, I don't understand all these different things, I don't have the space. So we wanted to have something that can then open up VR to a different audience, a bigger audience, right? So that's why we did this product. So it is not necessarily saying, hey, we're going to do this, now we're going to abandon the traditional lighthouse tracking that we've been doing.
Well, we cannot comment on specs or pricing, anything of that. I can share some testimony of all these customers and partners we've been showing this device to in the private setting, that this is definitely the most comfortable device they've ever worn, and that the resolution is the best they've ever seen. So a lot to look forward to.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the third thing, maybe you want to talk about the Viveport Infinity.
Viveport Infinity. So as I was talking about, so it's important for us to be transforming to an experience company, more so than just a consumer hardware company. So that really manifests in how we've been growing Viveport, our content service, in the past number of years, which has been highly, highly encouraging. Now with Viveport, we work with some 35,000 developers around the world. We offer a Netflix-like subscription service that allow consumers to pay a very low monthly price and select 5 titles to enjoy. And right now at CES this week, we've expanded that value to off the roof, to to infinite type of service, all you can eat type of service for consumers to access more than 500 titles at a single monthly subscription price. So what this means is amazing value for consumers to not to worry about a high purchase price if they want to try all of the great experiences out there, but also for developers that can get discovered more easily. We do great marketing campaigns to support developers to get discovered and get their messages out and communicate in our customers in very different ways. And this is just really the first of its kind, the world's first infinite VR subscription service, and we're really proud about that. That's Viveport Infinity.
Yeah, and I want to add a word on that is that it's really about changing mindset, right? Because a lot of people right now, when they go and purchase a piece of content, they're like, oh, I got to spend $10 or $20. Do I really want this? And they've got a certain budget, and they'll probably download 2 apps a month, right? And when we've got 4,000 VR apps out there, why limit yourself to a couple apps a month? If you've got this kind of subscription, you don't even have to think about it. You just say, oh, that looks interesting. Let me download it. And I don't believe right now that there is a killer app that works for everybody. But I'm pretty confident that if you go and look through the 4,000 apps and play them or use them, you'll find something that is a killer app for you as an individual. Right? And I think that's something that this subscription will enable, is that gives people the carefree discovery mentality and go and try new things. Right? So that's something I think is significant. And what it will also do is that it will change the activity level. Right? We want people to be using these products every day. Not once a week, not once a month. Right? And if you only have a few apps on your device, you're going to use it once a week or once a month. But if you have 100 apps on your device, you're going to use it more often. Right? So that's something that I think will have long-term ramifications in terms of changing user behavior. And then the last one.
Yeah, the last one is a concept we're introducing is Vive Reality. So we talked about this earlier last year in Barcelona, how we see Vive Reality as the convergence of VR, AR, 5G, AI, and all these cutting-edge emerging technologies to usher a new era of human experiences. And at CES this week, we're introducing the Vive Reality System, or the Vive OS type of user experience, where you, more so than downloading apps, you are entering into worlds and you're transporting yourself into and between these different worlds in a seamless way that is natively designed for 3D, for this kind of very immersive experiences. And so there will be a lot more to come about that. It's Vive Reality.
Yeah, and if you look at how most interfaces today in VR is designed, is taking existing 2D metaphor and just moving it into a spatial thing, and you're pointing and clicking at a button, right? I mean, these are things that have been, I guess, something familiar, but it's not really how, it's not necessarily the optimal way that people should interact in the 3D world. So what we're doing is that we're going from the ground up to create a new interface that it was designed for VR. So I think when that comes out, you'll get at least, and it's something that I think will be a work in progress. People will over time, and our teams will over time get feedback from our users and make it better and make it more suitable. But it is something that we feel will be a more natural way to interact.
But none of this description will beat having each of you to visit us at our All South Forum at the Win to see some of these new experiences and different applications of the eye tracking, Vive Focus, and all of these new experiences. Please visit us there. We don't have a lot of time left. I wanted to shift the focus to a little bit of investment climate. Actually, Alvin shared a stat to me that was also a little bit surprising, that actually 2018, despite all of the skeptics talking about investments are cold, they're dead, it's actually a larger amount than 2017 in terms of invested capital into the industry. And of course, we are continuing to stay a very active investor through Vivex. The portfolio has grown to a total of 100 companies globally, and continue to be very active in supporting early stage companies that we find promising. And the VRVCA, which Alvin helped create and now chairs, would you like to talk more about that and in general investment climate?
Yeah, I mean, even though let's say the total count is down by about 20% from 2018 to 17, the total investment amount is actually up about 5%. So I think that's actually quite a positive number, considering all the global economic, the macroeconomic downturn that's really hitting the rest of the world. So even in that environment, the total investments are up. Now, I think at the end of the day, with any industry, we have to remember that VCs and investors in general, they're going to invest in companies that they feel has a clear business model, that has a unique and differentiated product. right? So, as the market matures, there's going to be more and more people proving out who's really the right entrepreneurs, who's really got the right business or the right product. And so, having less and smaller total is not necessarily a bad thing. It actually just means that the industry is starting to mature more. Right. Now, the VRVC is actually something that we founded about 2 years ago, has about 50 of the biggest VCs in the world that invest in this industry, and we gather them together about once a quarter around the world. And I think that our next meeting will be in early Q2 in London. And if you're a VC, please come talk to me, and we're happy to welcome you to join that session.
And if you're a startup you'd like to pitch, please come to us as well. So last sort of topic we'll touch upon before opening up to hopefully some engagement with you guys is 5G. Where after this panel, we're heading to a 5G panel. So all this talk about 5G since last year, that was all that's on top of mind for every carrier conversation we went to. And no doubt in a few weeks' time, they'll continue to dominate the temperature. So what does 5G mean to the future of immersive computing?
Yeah, I don't know if you guys saw, but a couple weeks ago, we just announced several partnerships with Sprint, with Telstra, with China Mobile on 5G related to VR. And there's probably no other company more qualified to be, I guess, exploring this particular application, right? Because we are the one of, if not the leader in VR globally, and we've had over 20 years of telecom industry experience in the space, and we were the first to release the 3G phone, the first to release the 4G phone, the first to release an Android phone. So we know how to work with carriers, right? And I think what's going to happen over the next few months, especially with MWC coming, is that there will be this overhype of 5G cloud VR. But I am a big believer that this particular technology is going to change the way we utilize VR and how it gets out to a bigger audience. But it won't happen this year. Right? So I want to emphasize, I don't want people to come up and, at the end of the year and say, I thought this was the year of 5G cloud VR, what happened? And the reality is that this is a brand new network that is getting put out and deployed. It's going to take between 3 to 5 years to get out to enough coverage so that it's actually usable. And when it does, our HMDs will get smaller, they'll get cheaper, they'll get lighter, and it will get closer and closer to the form factors that everybody wants to wear every day. Right? Now, it will also be used in other areas, in smart automobiles and smart homes, blah, blah, blah. So, but another thing that it will do is that it will allow all the content to actually be resident in the cloud, which means you don't have to wait 20 minutes to download a multi-gigabyte app and then start using it. And because that usage model does not allow us to want to use VR all the time, right? If you went to a website, had to click on it, wait 20 minutes and come back and then see what's on the website, how often would you be on a browser? Right? I think that's people are used to that instant gratification, and that's what will be possible once cloud VR and cloud AR is actually realized.
And you will see some of that at our booth as well through our Amazon Sumerian partnership, as well as the Mozilla VR browser, demonstrating some of those early peeks into cloud VR browser-based type experiences that don't require downloading. So I think that wraps up our rapid-fire fireside conversation. Can we have some questions from the audience, please?
Yes. Yeah, so according to the specs, it's probably a sub 2 millisecond latency, added latency for the network, which actually is the more important aspect. So it's about a 10x reduction in latency versus the 4G network, and it's between a 10 to 100x increase in bandwidth. For the 5G. Now, one thing I do want to emphasize is that these are theoretical standards for the latency, and if you're once in the wild, these numbers can be different. And also, when you're sharing this network with 100 people, that bandwidth just dropped by 100x, right? So, yeah. Yeah, I think in terms of infrastructure spend, that is one of the biggest concerns from the carriers and why it will take multiple years to put this out, because it is a multi-trillion-dollar investment to put out a global network for 5G. And in fact, that's, how are they going to recoup that investment is what they keep asking us. Right? So a lot of people say, oh, 5G is going to save VR. I actually think it's the other way around. Is that VR will create an application that people will pay for that will then help recoup the cost of 5G and allow carriers to make that investment good. Right?
So VR is a killer app for 5G.
Yes. So but that network, once it is out, the benefit of it is that extra bandwidth and that low latency will allow multiple users to work very efficiently and have very high fidelity. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and one good thing is we still have Moore's law on our side, and it is essentially doubling every 12 to 18 months. I was just in a couple meetings with some of our GPU partners this week, and it is still going strong. And in fact, it's probably ahead of that curve in some cases. And there's a lot of sharing of these interfaces. There's also the fact that we're adding this eye tracking can help a lot, because now the GPUs, you can use a half to a third of what you would have needed in these shared GPUs. So there's all of these things, when they come together, will make it much easier. So I think we're almost out of time. Maybe one last question.
One last question. Absolutely, a lot of our experiences, actually, some of our favorite experiences are educational. So it is to consumers, but yes, absolutely for schools, for libraries, we're actually for museums, a lot of partners that we're working with. We're definitely very focused on bringing more content-related services like these of high value, great quality content to more people, not just consumers. Could be commercial use as well. I'm sorry. For schools. Not currently. We don't currently have a price. We don't actually even have a price for the consumer version yet. But definitely that's the direction that we're looking to offer. High value content services.
Okay, I think we're out of time. So thank you all for your attention.
Thank you, everyone.